Hello everybody, and welcome to part 2 of the Heist project. In this project, to kind of recap, what I'm going to do is I'm taking assets that I got from the Unreal Marketplace, and I have extracted them, and I have brought them into Motion Builder, and I've got them rigged up and ready to go. I've got some motion capture. I'm going to put it on them. Eventually going to get all that stuff back into Unreal. I'm also going to be demonstrating how to deal with 2 different sized characters. And by that, what I mean is the actors that were on stage were 2 different sizes. Like I had a female actor who was pretty short and a male actor who's a bit tall. And our game characters are roughly the same height. And it's talking about how to interact, how they're going to interact together in various ways. So I've got 3 different types of contact. I've got where the 2 characters are interacting with a prop. One character tosses a prop to the other character, and then there's physical contact where one character grabs the other character in such a way. And it's kind of getting it all to work. So hopefully maybe there's some tips and tricks in here that will make life a little bit easier if you ever have to get to this. So this is a bit of a learning process for me as well, because I'm not super familiar with Unreal, and I'm kind of learning as I go on that part of it. But as far as this motion editing part, this should be roughly a piece of cake. So let's get started. So what I've got here, I've got my, let me go to a single screen here. I've got my 2 characters. I've got them already characterized and in here. And if you need to know how to characterize, you can go to my YouTube channel and you can watch how I characterize and get these characters set up. I've got my mocap data right here, these 2 actors. And I've got some props that I'm going to be having them interact with. And I'm just going to kind of, go with it and just kind of work on this. And if anybody does tune in, and if anybody does have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll try to pay attention to my chat. All right. This will probably be long. I would say normally this would probably take about 8, I'd say 12 to 16 hours normally to kind of go through and do a full motion edit pass on this. At least for me, that's about how long it would take. So the first thing I need to do is I need to take our game characters and I need to get them retargeted to our mocap data. And what I have is I have a range of motion, and I already got the range of motion on this guy. But I'm going to be taking this range of motion and I'm going to be putting it onto the character. The range of motion, while it was originally mandatory to help systems like Vicon learn what parts of the markered character were what, like the legs and the arms and the what have you, which is not as necessary now. You can pretty much just click go on these mocap systems and it just works. On the back end, we still use the range of motion to help us calibrate our character, and every motion has a purpose behind it and a meaning behind it. And while I've already got him kind of retargeted pretty well, I don't have her really retargeted just yet. So she's the tough one too, because scale difference between these 2 characters. So let's kind of stop right here. Let me scrub all the way back to the beginning, and let me go grab the guy and pull him off to the side like that so we can look at these mocap skeletons. So first of all, let's take a look at size. You can see our female actor is much shorter than our male actor, and we're going to have to compensate, and there's a number of ways that we can do this. So I'm going to, since I've already got the guy, I'm just going to go ahead and get him stuck back onto his character, which is right here. And you can see how the mocap is actually pulling his arms down. It's because of how I've got him retargeting. So one of the things that you can do is you can scale your, typically you want to scale your mocap data up to match your characters. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to grab my reference. I've got I've got everything that's part of my motion captures on a reference node. And I'm just going to start scaling this up till we get a pretty decent fit. This is, if I play right now, you can see he's going to react a little bit strangely. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to scale this up to maybe right about there. It's 1.09. The scale that came out of our mocap system is a lot different than the scale that these game characters are at. So now let's look at her, because I think he's pretty good. I think this guy's okay. I think he came out pretty good. So let's get her going. Let's see, let's go over to her. She's right here. Oh, so note, this is a note for all of you who are doing this for the first time. If you're, chances are you're using the exact same skeleton and exact same naming conventions for your bones. That being the case, you're going to have to pull your characters in with a namespace. So for him, I put a TB for Twin Blast, because that's his name, in front of all of his joints. And I did the same thing for her, Belka, in front of all of her joints. And what that does is that prevents these joints from renaming themselves, which can cause problems, because then you try to get it into engine and then it doesn't work. And you're like, why does my animation not work? Oh, my bone names are wrong. All right, so let's get her over there. Last time I was trying to work off of 2 monitors because like, oh man, let me just flip back and forth, and that was kind of tough. So I think this time I'm just gonna stick to 1 monitor, and maybe I'll hide my big fat head so I'm not in the way of things. So anywho, let's see. Let's go to her. Let's get her going. Character. Let's get her. So she's walking around. She's following the mocap because I've already got it characterized pretty good. But the problem is look at the difference in scale between our actor and her. Let's go over to the animation, and let's kind of look at it and see what's going on. So they pick up this crate, which I don't have yet. I'm going to show you how to make a rig for that here probably tonight. And they set it down, so that's the first interaction. Then she says, "Hey, good job," and she tosses him the loot. So that's the second interaction. And then here's the third, where they shake hands and she shoots him. So let's talk about points of interest. So let's skip back all the way to the very beginning. Points of interest are where they're going to touch the prop, how they handle the prop, and how they work with the prop. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating a rig for this crate that's right here. I'm going to have this marker data right here actually drive the prop, which in turn is going to drive their arms. Right now, because the mocap skeletons are in scale with each other, they are working in unison. And everything just kind of fits. So she tosses, here's the second one. So she's got to have contact with that prop, and then she's going to toss it to him, and you can see that it makes contact with his hand. Let me hide some of that junk there. So she tosses it, boom, and he catches it. Now, while it doesn't look like the prop is really in her hand, if I go over to the mocap skeleton, which is this colored skeleton here, you can see it actually is in the mocap's hand. So then she tosses it to him. All right, he looks at it and says, "Cool, thanks, pleasure doing business with you." And they go to shake hands, and here's the third point of contact where they actually grab. Now this is an important one because they're actually making physical contact. Now everything else we probably could have faked a little bit, by scaling her up and making her fit better with the mocap. But it's this interaction right here that is tricky, because if I start scaling her up, then all of a sudden she will not be synced up with him, and they will miss each other and not actually shake hands. All right. So let's kind of look at, so I'm going to have to kind of pick my battles, and I'm going to have to figure out what are the pros and cons of all this. So what will work best? Okay. That down. Oh, I hate it when I do that. Layout editing. There we go. A lot of times I'll just going to sit here and I kind of like look around, because what I'm doing is I'm actually thinking about my next move and how I want to handle this. So let's look at the overall quality of her retarget. And I've already done kind of like a first pass, kind of trying to get her to follow the mocap data, and it's, you know, it's okay. It's not great. And so it'd be okay because the mocap's not to her scale. What I'm concerned about is her hips. You see, there's kind of got this weird movement in her hips when she's walking. That's a little unnatural, and it has to do with the way that things are retargeting. Let me explain why it's retargeting. So this purple skeleton in here, which is her skeleton, this is how it came out of Unreal. And the way they built her in Unreal is they have her hips kind of way up high like this, instead of right between these two hip joints right there. If you look at the mocap skeleton is actually set up the way Motion Builder expects a skeleton to be set up, and the joint is right there. And because of this, you kind of get this weird, we're kind of getting this weird hip movement, primarily because the difference in size. So what I could do is I could take her mocap data, which is right here. Let's go all the way back to the beginning T-pose. Again, this is why T-poses are kind of important at the beginning. And let's try scaling her mocap up. Now look what happens. As I scale it up, she's got these two props that are rigged, which is this loot that's on her and her pistol. And as I scale her up, look at how she goes out of sync with those two props. That means I'm going to have to scale those props up as well. So I'm kind of looking for an overall fit. And the actress obviously had a much longer torso than legs compared to our game character here. Things I'm doing, I'm looking at feet, I'm looking at feet contact, I'm looking to make sure her feet contact are with the ground. I'm kind of looking at overall fitting, like her shoulders are kind of coming up into the correct place. Her legs are, joints are closer. They're not spot on, but they're definitely closer. And I scaled her up to, let's see, what's that scale? That scale is 1.18. So let me go to the pistol and the money. I'm going to scale those up to 1.18. Wait, that was global. Let me check local. I want to work in local space. So 1.08. So pistol, money. .08. I'll just type that in, and you can see it's kind of, they're kind of back in place because the props are now back in scale with her. Oh, but that one's popped down. That means there's a key on that one. So let's check that out. Pistol. Check the F curves. Rotate, translate, scale. Money. 1.08, 1.08. Strange. I'll just set a key. Oh yeah, there we go. Found the key. There it is. It's got some keys down here for some reason. Just delete those. All right, so now the props are back in line with her. But she's now a little bit off from this crate. Not a big deal, not a game changer. But something to be concerned about, potentially. Now she's going to toss the bunny, but because the money is now scaled different than he is, when she tosses it to him, he no longer catches it. You can see that it's out of his hand. And now they're going to go in for the handshake. And you can see her hand is no longer, the mocap is no longer making contact with that hand. So I'm asking myself some questions right now. The questions that I'm asking myself are, what is easiest to edit? Is it easier to fix this? I've got a trick to fix that prop that gets tossed. I've got a little trick for that. She definitely follows the motion capture better. And if I look at her hips when she's moving, I'm not getting that weird, this kind of weird shifting that was going on before. My knee-jerk reaction is to have these two characters scaled slightly different and then just adjust the handshake. Well, before I make a call on this, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this crate rigged up, and I'm going to show you what I do with a prop and how I get it to work with mocap data. I've already done it with the pistol and the money props. I've got these rigs that I've created, and I've got them being driven by the marker data. So on set, we markered props and we captured that so that we can use that data later. Let me hop back over to the ROM, because I'm going to just kind of explain a little bit of what I like to do. Whenever I'm shooting mocap, what I like to do is I like to have any known props in the scene when I do the ROM. I like to have both characters doing the ROM. I like to have any known props in the ROM, and that just saves me time on the back end. That's my own personal way of handling things. So let's say I was on a shoot and I was shooting and I was doing like a whole bunch of motions in a single day. I was doing like, 2 different rifles and a couple of pistol animations and some sword animations, or 2 characters drinking tea, or whatever it happens to be. And we've got all these props that we're bringing in and using. And I don't have them in my initial ROM. That means after I do all this solving, when it comes time to processing the data that has those props, I'm going to have to pull that marker data into that data and get that all hooked up. But by doing it in the very beginning, if possible, it's just going to save you a lot of time. So, okay, so I'm going to stick with the ROM right here because the ROM has everything in place. And so you might be wondering what these nulls are. These are measuring devices that I set up so I know exactly the scale of this prop. And game metrics usually are numeric values of that are whatever it is, multiples of 2. So typically speaking, so 50 centimeters by 75 centimeters by 25 centimeters, or whatever it happens to be, generally speaking. So what I did is I wanted to measure this prop so I knew exactly kind of what I'm dealing with. And this is really cool. So what I did was let me go over here. I created a little measuring rig where I just grabbed a null. Let me split my screen here. So I grabbed a null and I put it in there, and I just parented a few other nulls to it. And what these are kind of like my my measuring tape. And you can see I've got a little number right here that calculates the measurement of whatever this is. And it's real simple to create. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll delete this, and I'll recreate that so you can kind of see how it works. There's a measuring tool up here. You just click this, and you go to one null, select there, and then go to your next object that you want to check out. And I'm using a tablet right now, so it's a little bit tricky. And there. Now this is a live curve, right? So it doesn't last, or doesn't stay. If I had to measure a whole bunch of things, it doesn't stay. But you can do a command. I believe it's Control D. So I have selected it. So Control Shift D. Control Shift D. That's what it is. Control Shift D will kind of turn it into a vector-based graphic. This dimension that's right here, and it's still live. It can still take the measurements, but it won't go away, and you can put multiple measuring tapes down and kind of get an idea of scale. All right, so that's what that's all about, just in case you're wondering. I needed to know the dimensions of that crate. Well, let me hide all that because I don't need that any longer. Now all we're doing is dealing with the marker data. So I know where my markers were on set. A lot of times when you shoot mocap, you need to know. It's good to have reference of your props and your actors with markers on it, so you know how the markers fit to the props and to your actors, and you're just going to get better results. So I know that these two are on the top, these two markers were on the side, and I think those were all the markers that we had. You're always going to have at least 3 markers for a prop. Example, this pistol has 3 markers. And we set this up on sticks so that they kind of stick away from the actual prop pistol that we used. And it just kind of kept markers from getting in the way of each other when we shot. Same thing with this little bag. We just kind of created a little cardboard box with some weight to it, and took little chopsticks and stuck them out of the box with markers on it to kind of get them away from the prop. That way, when the actor grabs a hold of it, all the markers that are on their hand don't interfere with the markers on the prop. All right, so let's create a rig for this. And this is how I create my rigs. This is what I learned when I was at id working on Rage. This is kind of what they did for their weapons, and it's kind of something that stuck with me all these years, and it's just kind of how I build everything now when it comes to like weapon rigs. There's probably better ways of doing this, but this is my way. So I'm going to go to my elements, and I'm going to grab a marker, and I'm going to drag it into my scene. And it's right over here. It's this little tiny cube, which you probably can't see. I'm going to align it to here, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start scaling this up. So I'm going to go to my properties, marker settings, and I'm going to scale up in my marker settings. It's a big number. It's a big number. Oh. I don't want to scale it this way, like that, because I don't want to put any values that I don't have to. So first round of scaling will be here. Pull that up a little bit. There we go. Now we're seeing it. And I'm just going to kind of get it in place. It doesn't have to be like super exact, just close enough. Now, if I wanted to be a little more precise, I could probably scale it in this direction. Should probably be fine. All right, then I'm going to hit 4 on the keyboard, and that's going to put it into wireframe. And it'll be very similar to those. And the great thing about using a marker, as opposed to like geo, like a cube or something else, is when I hit Control A, it hides with everything else and doesn't get in the way when it comes time to edit your animation. All right, so there's that. And I also want to create some attachment nodes. Do I want to create attachment nodes? I think I do. Yeah, let's create some attachment nodes. So these are for the hands of the characters. So let's go to pose controls, properties, asset browser. I'm going to drag in some more markers. And this time I'm going to take these markers and go into properties. I'm going to color these blue just to be a little bit, have a little bit of contrast there. And I'm going to parent it to that marker. Parent. I should actually rename this. I like calling them rig and then whatever it is. So rig crate. Rename. I'm going to call one left hand attach A, underscore A. Because we have two characters that are going to interact with this, so I need to know what's what. Right hand attach underscore A. All right, let's grab a couple more. Under my asset browser. So here's a little trick for you. So I could have pulled all 4 markers in and just colored them all at once. But let's say you didn't do it like how I did it right here, and you want them all the same color. You can come in here and just go to properties and try to match it up or look at those. But what you can also do is you can select these markers and then select a blue marker, then select these markers. Oh, not that marker. Select a blue marker, then those markers, then come over to your color and just tickle it like that. Now that everything's the same color. Or I could have these markers actually be a slightly different color since I'll be using this on the other character. So let's do this more of a purple color. There we go. Let's call this left hand attach B. Right hand attach B. All right, so left hand attach A, left hand attach B, and so on and so forth. All right, now let's go grab these markers and let's roughly put them into place. I don't know which character is going to be what yet, but these are going to be on this side, like that, and these will be on this side, like so. All right, now I'm going to scale these up just a little bit so they're a bit easier to see. And hit 4 on the keyboard to turn them to wireframe. So there we go. Now I've got all 4 attach nodes to this. All right, so next thing I need to do, I need to think about which character is going to control this prop. Right, so right now, I believe she's controlling both the pistol and the money in this scene. So here and here. So I think I might have him control this. Now this is important because what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a character extension and attach it to him so that it becomes an extension of his control rig. And what that will allow me to do is bake animation down and create poses and all sorts of stuff like that. So I'm going to go to my navigator. I'm going to go to, if I can pull this up a little bit. Go to character extensions. Let's create a new one. Insert character extension. I'm going to do, let's see, how can I do this? thinking about this. So I'm thinking what I could do is I could have whichever hand attach she uses be a character, an extension of her, and his two be an extension of him, and the crate be an extension of him. I don't know. I've never tried that. Wonder if I should do that, or if I should. Yeah, maybe I'll try that. All right, so I'm going to just drag that into there. And I like to name things the same and be consistent, so let's rename that. So rig crate. And I'm going to do, normally I split the left and right hand, so each hand attachment will have its own character extension, but I think for this, because it's so simple, I think I'll just put them into each set into one. So I'll create 2 more character extensions. Attach A and attach B. Drag A into A and B into B. And I think, open up my characters, and I guess I'll just drag, well, I can always change this up later. I'll drag this into him. And I'm going to get this little warning that says, hey, all your poses are now out of date, which is cool because I don't have any poses yet. All right, so now let's get that prop being driven by these nodes. All right, so I'm going to go up to my constraints. I'm going to add some constraints to this in a folder, apparently. Let's see. I'm going to add, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a rigid body. So this is going to attach my my prop to the mocap, or my rig. I'm sorry. It's going to attach my rig to the mocap. So that's going to be the child. Then I need the source, which is right here. And just select all those and drag them into source, and you can see it populates. This I'm going to snap and lock, and that kind of, if there's any offsets, it will keep it offset. If I didn't have that on, it would have popped this rig up. And I locked it, so that means I can no longer move that. But if I go and play the animation now, it will play. But the crate won't move with it because the crate is not yet constrained to the prop. So typically I don't constrain the props to the weapon joints that are in the character's hands directly. I'll usually put the prop constrained to the rig that I create, and then have the rig drive the weapon joints, or vice versa. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this rig crate. So I'm going to add a parent child now, and I'm going to take this, and that's going to be my parent. Let's go find that crate. Which is, where is it? Here, it's here. There it is. There's the crate. Yeah, that's the crate. So take that. I'm going to drag that right there. Snap lock. Typically, if at all possible, if I can make the constraints and the objects one-to-one, I like to do that. Sometimes that's not an option. All right, so now that prop is being driven by the mocap, which you can't see right now because the ROM, it doesn't move in the ROM. It just kind of sits in one place. So let me head over to the animation itself, and let's watch what happens. Now remember, I scaled her up, so she's no longer in sync with that crate. And you can see as she moves across the stage, she phases from being out of sync to kind of being in sync to being out of sync. Let's look at that again. Let me... I hate it when I do that. Reset my layout. All right, so let's watch this again full. Top down. Let's watch this. All right, she can come over, she can pick it up. And you can see she's kind of out of sync right there. And she comes across, as she gets closer to 0, she's more in line with the prop right there. And as she gets over here and sets it down, she's no longer in line. So hey, what's this? Oh, it's his little grenade prop. Did I turn that off? Erg. I won't worry about that. So I'm still asking myself the question, do I want to have, even though she reads the mocap better here, do I want to have that offset? Because that's something I'm going to have to fix. Oh, you know what? I think I can fix it. I think there's... How is this? Huh. Uh-oh, did it crash? Oh my god, did it crash? I hope it didn't crash. This is a lot of work. I didn't save. Oh no. Oh, auto test crash. Oh, maybe it'll try to save as I... Yes, save. Backup save, the crash save. Hey, so now you get to see what happens when it crashes and it saves. Here we go. So, learning experience. So, let's go to Motion Builder. Open that up. And it opened up in a different window. Oh, hold on a second while it loads. Everything loads. And I'll put this back in my window. All right. So we had the infamous crash. Let's see how it saved. So let's go open. And it took me right to the 2018 X64. So this is under the documents, MB. So this PC, my PC, whatever, documents, Motion Builder, and then there's my backup right there. So let's hope everything's there. No whammies, no whammies. Hey, all right, it worked. Let's do a quick save. File, save as. I'm gonna go save this. So if I kept working here, it's like I'm working in that recovery file. So I'm just gonna go and save this here. Save that real fast. Ooh, that was close. All right, so where was I? Oh yeah, I was saying I think I'm gonna fix her. I think that's an easy fix. I'm still thinking it's more effort to fix all the problems with the retarget if the skeleton is scaled down. So I think I'm gonna, so far I'm leaning towards this. All right, so now we need to fix this tossing. Now here is my little trick. All right, so she's in contact with this this loot, right? And then she tosses it to him, and now it's out of sync with him. And he drops it on the ground, and then she comes to pick it up, and it's in sync with her. So here's my trick. We're going to see how this works. So I'm going to go to my money reference. I'm going to go to scale. Make sure I'm in local. So when she's getting ready to toss it to him, as soon as she lets go of it, right there, I'm going to set a key. And by the time he catches it, which is right there, say there-ish, I'm going to scale it back down to 1. Set a key. So while it's in midair, you don't even realize it's scaling. It doesn't scale the prop. It's scaling the mocap markers, which in turn changes the motion of the rig, which is the money, which is being driven by the rigid body. So now it is back in sync with him. She shoots him, and he's going to go drop it on the floor. And this is where I'm going to have it it flies way off. Whoa. So right there, I think I'm going to set a key. And maybe right there. Wait, did it set? I don't think it set a key on scale, did it? I think it did. Did it? Let's go check. Did not set a key on scale. I'm gonna have to fix that. All right. Just 1 second. I think I heard the dog crunch on something. Crisis averted. Dog is not choking on anything. All right, so where were we? So I'm going to scale that down to 1. This time, make sure I set a key on scale. You can see my curve right there. All the way to here. Set a key. And where it hits the ground, right there-ish. Set another key, put that back up to 1.08. There we go. All right, so there we go. The prop is now back lined up with both actors. Side note, so what happened is when our actor dropped the prop, it went way out of bounds, so we had an assistant on the side of the stage run over and pick up the prop and set it back into place. So we'll be getting rid of that little thing so it just falls into place. Before I commit to this motion, I want to double check my mocap data skeleton. I'm going to select all the joints and select rotation. Come on. There we go. And I'm looking for any gimbal. There's little, looks like there's a little peak removal that needs to happen right here. This is just data that may not be the cleanest. So there's like little jaggedy peaks right here. Let me... You might see the little hitch right here. Oh, or maybe it skips it because it's on an incremental frame. So I could do things like, so here's where some of the filters come in that are kind of nice. So filters, I can come over here, I can say peak removal, I can preview it, got rid of that peak, accept. I don't see any gimbal, which is good. You reselect all that stuff. So the hips are slightly different than the rest of the skeleton. There we go, there's the rest of the skeleton. Not seeing any gimbal. Let's go check him out. Not seeing any gimbal on him either. There are a few little, like I'm looking at this curve right here, and I can tell there was a bad marker. All right. Let's give her. Oh, she got a little shake in that arm. Let's go check that arm out. That's her, is that her left arm? Yeah. There it is. Right through there. So if I don't see anything I can fix in the mocap by doing a filter, then I'll probably do it in the next pass on the control rig. But here, check this out. Here's some janky data right there. I bet her arm kind of freaks out just a little bit. No, maybe not. Yeah, mocap. She does have a few hitches and pops on her arm. Again, in an environment where you can send stuff back to your whoever's your specialist solving your data, I would see stuff like that. I would send it back. The pop in his chest right there. Some of the stuff's going to have to be fixed after the fact. I think he's good. I think he's good to go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plot him down. I'm going to go to Twin Blast Dude, and I'm just going to go plot to skeleton. And plot to control rig. So I've now baked the mocap to his skeleton and to his control rig. I'm still on the fence with her. But I think we're just going to run with this. So let's go over to her. And I'm going to plot to skeleton and then to control rig. All right. I should be able to just hide. I'm not going to get rid of this mocap data just yet. I'm just going to leave it in my scene. It's okay. Let's move this out of the way and I'm just going to hide that. That's strange. There it goes. And my computer's acting a little funny after that crash. It's like my hotkeys aren't doing what I'm thinking they're supposed to be doing. All right, let's get her motion edited a little bit better. Oh, you know what I probably need to do? I probably need to create a constraint on her hips for these props. So what we did was we got some Velcro and we just put it on the back of the prop. And since these suits are Velcro, we just kind of like stuck it to her, on her, stuck it. And then she just, like, when she reached back to grab it, it's like she's pulling it out of her pocket. She's just kind of like pulling it from the Velcro. And we played with it a little bit to make sure we had just the right amount of Velcro, because too much, she'd have a hard time. If it's too little, it would fall off while she's walking around. All right, so one of the artifacts that we have from the retarget is IK pull is on the feet. I'm just going to turn that off on her and him. Don't need that. Okay, so the animation is probably going to start. I think I'll start the animation like right here. Frame 81. So I'm going to crop it there. Go through all the way, and she walks away, and crop it right here. 1, 2, 4, 3. There we go. All right, let's do our first little mo edit here. We need her to hit all of her key points. create an animation layer. So these are going to be broad brush strokes that we're doing at first. So I want her to pick it up. But I want her in place, so I'm just gonna, you can see how the props actually move off of her. Do I have these constrained to anything? I can't remember. Yes, I do. I have that one constrained. Is this one, by constrained I mean is there a weapon joint in her skeleton that's associated with that? And yes, there is. This one I'm not sure of. Let's find out. I don't think she has a joint associated with that. We should probably do that. So in games, you have to have some way of linking things together. And typically, you have like a socket or a node or a joint inside the skeleton that you constrain your props to. All right, let's look at her skeleton. Let's see what we can use. So this is her. She has weapon L, which is right here in her hand. And she has pistol, which is right here in that hand. Oh no, her pistol's right there because it's a pistol. And then she has weapon. Which is this weapon right here on her back. Which, I don't know why they did it. I mean, I kind of know why they did it. But apparently, at least when I pulled this stuff from Unreal, this weapon geo and her geo are the same mesh. They're not two separate objects. So I didn't want to go in and have to strip that out and just create a whole lot of trouble. I just wanted to keep using the Unreal asset. So I left it in there. So I think I'm going to be using her left weapon, even though it's her right hand that she uses to to toss the money. I think I think that's what I'm going to do. So here's the trick to making this work in a game. You have to align translation, rotation, XYZ, zeroed out 1-to-1 to whatever the prop is. Otherwise, when you get in later, you're going to have to add all these offsets in game. So let's go to constraints. Let's add a constraint. Parent child. Yeah, parent child. Left weapon. That will be the child. And let's go to the prop, which is this bag. Split my screen. So you can see what I'm doing. I'll just drag it down here. And I'm going to align it with that. So now it's right there. And if I zoom in, you can kind of see it. There's the joint lined up with that bag of loot. But I don't want to constrain this to the prop itself. I want to constrain this to the actual rig. So I will grab the rig and I'll put that in here, and I'll say snap lock. So now the rig is driving that weapon joint. I now need to create a character extension for that, or unless I've already got, oh, I've already got it in there. Ha, I thought ahead. There we go. That means when I bake this down, that will be baked down. All right, so now I'm going to create the opposite, the secondary part of this rig, which is, right now it is rig controlled. So I need to name this accordingly. Loot. Loot controlled. All right. Add another one. Let's see, parent child. Now I'm going to do the reverse, so that this is in control of the prop. So that would be the parent, and that over here would be the child. I'm going to turn the first one off and go snap lock. All right, so now if I grab this, well, Mocap is still on, isn't it? I need to bake that down first. Loop controlled. Let's bake that down real fast. Plot to skeleton. Plot to control rig. I call this left. Left weapon controlled. I'm gonna put those in a folder so I don't get mixed up later. So any constraints I associate it with that loot, I'll put in that folder and I'll just keep it a little more organized. All right, so now that that's being controlled by the weapon, I should be able to reverse it. So let's see if I didn't mess stuff up. So loot control, unactivate that. Left weapon, activate, and it looks correct. Looks like it's being controlled. Let's give it a little test. All right. So if I grab the weapon joint, I can move it. Sweet. And if I grab the rig, I cannot, because it's being controlled by the weapon. Now I'm going to reverse it. Right there. Oh, but it's being controlled by the mocap. I got to turn the mocap off. All right. So let me, there we go. So, all right. So now that is being controlled. Is that in a character extension? I don't know if I have that in a character extension. That's not good. I should have that in a character extension. All right, let's put that in a character extension real fast. So why I love Motion Builder. It's just so easy to just quickly do things on the fly, set things up, stuff up on the fly. Save my scene before I do this. Rig money. Rig money. All right. I'll just put both of those things in here. Oh. All right, let's rebake that down. All right, let's turn that mocap off. Let's test that out. All right, so I can move the rig. Cannot move that. And if I flip it around, I can't. Yep. And yeah, that works. Let me double check my curves, F curves. Yep. So that's got all the keys on it. And my rig, double check that. It's got all of its keys on it. Yep, everything looks good. Everything looks good there. Do I have my pistol in a rig? I've done my pistol. I have no idea. I have not done the pistol yet, so I guess I should go do that real fast, shouldn't I? Rig pistol. All right, so now the pistol has been added and it disappeared. Oh, it's over there. And it's going crazy. I'm gonna have to fix that. So markers are there. It's mocap markers. So kind of like going back to steps that I probably skipped. I would have created all these rigs. Generally speaking, I would have created them all on that ROM. And I wouldn't be having this problem right now. All right, so oh, see, I didn't lock my constraint for this for whatever reason. I think it's because I was adjusting it in her hand. So let me fix that. Put that back into place. I'm going to do this on the ROM. When I lay these things out in my mocap space to do this, I usually try to get this as 90 degrees as possible. Like I try to make things going down lines. I think it makes things easier later. So we put a marker right on the barrel, coming out the barrel. That way the holster doesn't occlude it, and she was able to draw the weapon without any trouble. I think that's close. I'll do a final adjustment in her hand. Let's plot that all down again. All right. Now, I went through a lot of effort here because I'm going to have to do some motion editing to get her to follow that crate. And I need the weapons to move with her, and I don't want her moving away from it, kind of like what we were looking at earlier. So went through all that trouble. Let's see if it pays off, or if I have more stuff I have to do to make it work. So in this case, what we want is we want the skeleton to control the props instead of the props controlling the skeleton. So we need to first turn off any mocap that may be on those props. Yeah, that's off. That's off. Then I want to go to make sure that it's being weapon controlled, which that is. Make sure the pistol's getting controlled. Which it is. All right. I should, in theory, be able to now motion edit her to follow that crate better. All right. So we're going to do a little foot trickery here. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to get her into place, roughly. And I'm going to set a full body key. And you can see now I've got things set up. Her props and everything are going with her. And then when she gets right about here, we already know she was kind of like, when they cross over 0, she's already kind of in place. So I'm going to hit the 0 key right there. And when she gets to the end of her run, I need to move her back a little bit. Set a full body key there. And then as she steps over here, she's got to make all this contact with him, so I'm going to want to re-zero her out. So there. So you can see these little shifts and adjustments and stuff. All right. So now if we like watch what she's doing, her feet are gonna be sliding on the floor. You see she's kind of ice skating around, and we don't want that. We wanna fix that. So here is my solution. Now there's some scripts that I've seen other studios write, which are really nice, that does this for you. This is how you do it manually. I'm going to go to body part mode. I'm going to select one foot, and I'm going to go and I'm going to try to find all the contact points where her foot is flat on the floor. So it'd be passing pose. So the passing pose would be right here, right? Because her right foot is in mid stride. So I'm just going to set a key right there. Mid stride, set a key right there. Set a key. I'm just going to go right down the range. That's my 0 key, so that's fine. Set a key. Hide some of that stuff so you can see really what's going on. Set a key right there. And then she's back to 0. Alright. Let's go start doing some foot trickery on that left foot. So I'm going to grab that very first key and I'm going to slide that in. And you can see how her foot's actually moving. That's how much it's translating in that offset. I'm going to go right to where she's picking it up. And I'm going to slide the key to right there. In fact, I'm going to zoom in on this so we can just get it. So this is kind of a long animation, so get a better view of this. And then as she goes to plant her foot, I'm going to go to the next key, which is right there. That's the passing pose. And I'm going to slide it to right there, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go to where it starts to pick itself up off the ground. And you're going to see a shift when I paste this key. A little tiny shift right there. If you missed it, don't worry, you're going to see it again. So now the foot's is locked into place. So you can see that a little bit of a shift. I think that's just jitter from Mocap. You can see the foot now locks into place as she steps across the floor. And I'm moving on to the next one. So there's that step right there. So what's happening is there's an offset. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to do the transition, the offset blending while the foot is in the air and have it plant when it's planted down on the ground. I'm going to my F-curve editor and you can kind of see what's going on a little bit better maybe. Let's copy that. Go where she's picking it up. It's okay if her foot's like, it doesn't have to be like at the frame it's coming off the floor. It could be like the frame after it picks up off the floor. It just has to be where the foot is actually transitioning through the air. She takes lots of steps, so there's going to be a lot of fixing here. This is what I was also talking about when I was saying the pros and cons of keeping her skeleton to scale versus having to deal with fighting this much taller character retargeting to a smaller actor. So copy that key, go to where it picks its foot up off the ground. Paste it. Here's my 0 key. I'm just going to drag that 0 key over. Oh, here's a stretch right here. So she sets her foot down. Let's see if I get in closer on this. She sets her foot down, and I need to have it planted there for a little while, but you can see her leg is trying to IK, especially right here when she starts to step back to go back to right here. So there's some tricks I can do. But the first thing I want to do is I want to check my curves because I can see a little bit of dip in the foot right here, and my tangents are telling me it should be flat, but it's not. So there's a bug inside of Motion Builder, and it's been here for a while. Just go ahead and select. I'm going to select all those. I'm just going to hit flatten. And when I come back here, her foot is now solid on the ground until she starts to IK pull away. So how can I fix this? It's actually pretty simple. But I think I want to move past this to the next one, and then I'll come back and I'll fix that, and I'll show you how and why. So now she's going to pick her foot up, and she's going to plant it here. Slide that key, copy it, paste, and then sets it down right there. I'll re-flatten this just to make sure it's flattened, and hit save because we don't want it to crash. I guess the good thing is if you're watching this on YouTube later, at least you can like fast forward through all this really boring stuff. All right, so here's how I'm going to fix this. It's a pretty clever trick, I think. Technique, whatever. It's magic. I'm gonna go to where her leg is like starting to hyperextend, like right here. That's where the IK is starting to lock. And I'm going to take these curves that are right here, and I'm just going to play with them just a little bit. I'm going to pull this in a little bit, maybe right there. And I'm going to go grab another curve like X. Grab my X, grab those, and I'm going to maybe come back a little bit, and then I'm just trying to do just enough to prevent that leg from locking. Right there. That's the big one. Now I can keep probably messing with the leg, or I can come in here and I can do a pass on her hips to kind of get her into place. So it's kind of like you're gonna go back and forth between these two variables. And I think before I do that, I'm gonna go do the right foot. So now I'm gonna do everything I did on the left foot, I'm gonna do to the right foot. So passing pose. So that technically right there would be the passing pose. So I'm going to set a key. I've got, so you can see I have the right foot selected. Passing pose right there. Right there. Right there. Although I think that's the 0 key, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that is the 0 key. Right there. Right there. And then plant. So I'll just go ahead and move that last key into place. Let's go back to the very beginning. So right to where it picks up. Excuse me. So again, just let's grab them. We generally we call them bookmark because we're bookmarking things. One of the nice things about having like a lot of money in a production is that you can hire actors and you know have your pick of actors and get actors that fit the height of your characters and try to get them as one-to-one as possible. So what I did was I know he's going to be picking his foot up down here a little bit, so I went ahead and just copy and pasted that key here, even though it's not where he's picking his foot up, because I can just go to where he is and just move it into place. And we're back on track. Yep. All right. Same thing what we did before. I'm going to grab all these curves. I'm just going to flatten them and hide a bunch of stuff. And let's watch the animation and play it. Make sure she's looking okay. And yeah, I think those feet are coming into contact with the ground pretty good. So let's go back to that problem area right here with the hips where she starts to pull off and her leg starts to IK. Let's figure out how we can fix that, which is right here. So I did mess around with the foot a little bit I could probably go back in and continue to muck around with this this foot plant just to see if I can get it a little bit nicer. But it's one of those things where I may be fixing here, but I might be messing up the animation earlier in the timeline. Let's try this. Let's pull this up like that. Maybe right there. How does she step into this? That's not too bad, huh? Still kind of... I mean, she does have a little bit of bend to her knee, but it's still, you know, it's a little bit of an IK there. So let's go grab this and let's try and move this around just a little bit. Let's see how this feels. Yeah, it's much better. Her foot does sink into the ground, but that's from the motion capture data. That's not from these curves. And that is something we can fix later. Actually, typically I don't like to use floor contacts until a certain point in the animation, but I'll show you right now how. Let me zoom in on that foot so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see how her foot kind of sinks down into the ground and comes back up. It's just some mushy data that I'm going to be fixing. So you can go into your navigator, go to your character. Our character settings, you can go down to modifiers, floor contacts, feet floor contact, and I'm going to just turn that on. But let me do it right here where she sunk down into the ground, so you can see what happens. So I can click that on. You can see it popped her foot up. So I'm going to do toe contact, or toes floor contact, and feet floor contact. So if you wonder in my tutorials why I put in, where is it? It's right here. These floor contacts as part of her character definition, which are right here. It's for that, and it allows me to have individual control over the left and right foot. And if she should happen to fall on the ground, she doesn't fall on the ground, but he falls on the ground. So I could use the hand floor contacts for him when he falls down. But her feet are no longer sinking below the floor. They're just kind of hitting that zero plane and stopping. Stopping's a better. Motion capture can cause foot to slide around if it's trying to go through the floor and move around. But if it's something little like that where the foot is just kind of dipping below the ground and coming back up a little bit, this is probably a good time to actually turn that on and kind of like give it a look-see. In fact, I'm going to go through the whole animation and just kind of double check her feet to make sure that I'm not seeing anything weird. I don't think I am. All right, yeah, everything still seems to be like it's lining up. So that's what I call a pass. So I've done a foot pass. So when you're doing motion editing, you don't want to try to cram everything into a single iteration or a single pass of editing. You kind of want to break things down and say, what can I do, and then bake it down. And then what's the next thing what's the next step I can do? This is the next step. Now bake it down. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But before I bake down, I'm just going to look at her hips, make sure there's nothing silly going on here. I don't think there is. It's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to check her F curves on her hips and see what I see. So there's the 0 key. So what do I mean by a 0 key? What does 0 key mean? So 0 key, when you're in an animation layer, that's an offset. And by zeroing it out, you're actually going back down to what the original base animation is. So in that frame right there, she is back to where the original animation is. Whereas at this point in the animation and at this point in the animation, she has an offset, and that was to kind of keep her in line with that chest as it moves across the floor. All right, so I'm going to call that a pass, and let's go ahead and bake that down. I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pass of her carrying the chest. This is where her hands are actually going to come in contact with the prop. And that's going to require some more constraints. I've got a lot of constraints going on in this particular project. So let's see. I'm going to put it in this folder. Let me rename this. Let me call this crate rigging. Of course, you can't see it because my big head's in the way. There, so created a crate rigging right there. Renamed it. So now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go constraints, parent child. I'm going to create two of those because she has a left and a right hand. So left hand. I like to camel case my names. And I think blue is A, so if I remember correctly. Select it, A. Yeah, all right. Right hand attach A. All right. Of course, these are backwards. So that's right. So right needs to go on right, and left needs to go on left. There we go. There and there. So that is going to be under left, and that's going to be the parent. And that's going to be the parent. So these are going to control her hands. Now I'm going to create some auxiliary effectors for her. And I'm going to turn off the pull or the reach on these. Turn those off. All right. Oh, I created it on him. I had him selected. Let me delete those real fast. Let me hop over to her. All right. Auxiliary effector. I'm going to have to create them for him too, but I'll do that later on. All right, so let's tone that stuff down. And back over here. Left hand attach, so left hand. And I'm going to hit 0, and that's going to pop it right on top of that box. And they're almost the exact same size, so yeah. Do the same thing for the other one. Zero. All right. So now the auxiliary effectors are being controlled by the rigging, which is this box, which is a character extension of him. So it's like I'm now now I'm kind of working these characters as if they're interacting. And put my beautiful face back up there. There we go. So you can see me because I use my hands when I talk, and I like realize my little gestures are not coming through. There we go. All right, so she's gonna come down, she's gonna grab it right there. And that's kind of about where her hands lock into it. So I'm going to line these here and set a key. Set a key. All right. Oh, now remember that the actress was a lot shorter than this character, so you can see her side of the crate is lower than his. If our actress was the same size as the male, this crate would probably actually be like, well, it's being controlled by Mocap right now. It would be more level. I wonder if I should bake that down. I should probably break that down. Yeah, I should bake that down. If it's not baked down already. F curves. And is it? It is. It is baked down. All right, cool. So I'm just going to turn off the Mocap for that, which is right here. I should call this rig. Name this rig crate. To Mocap. Now I don't get confused. If I turn that off and I play that, yep, it works. Sweet. So yeah, where was I? So yeah, the crate would be like, probably more like that. So there's some little editing things I'm going to do to make this work for her. So I think, okay, so when I'm dealing with a prop, what I like to do is I try not to think about it as the character's picking it up and moving it around, almost like the prop is anthropomorphic and it picked itself up and it's moving around and it's setting down, almost like, or like the invisible person picked it up and moved it across the stage or whatever. Kind of like the offset here, so how he kind of lifts up his side first. So I'm going to set a key like probably right out there. And when it gets into place, I'm going to rotate it up just a bit to kind of get it more in line with the two characters, or with her really. Now it's going to maintain that offset all the way to where they set it down. And I'm going to play some keys here, so I'm going to set a key, and then I'm going to come down and right about here, I'm going to set a 0 key so it's on the ground. And I'm going to play with those offsets to kind of like make it feel right. So I kind of liked how they didn't set it down symmetrically. There we go. I think that'll work. So one of the things I'll go in and do is this crate. Technically, before they touch it, there should be no motion on it. After they set it down, there should be no motion on it because they're not, after they set it down, they're not really interacting with it. So I'm going to go to my base animation layer and I'm just going to clean up that data real fast. So from here, translation rotation, I'm going to find right where it kind of like plants and I like it. Right there. And I'm going to delete those keys. And delete those keys. And delete these keys. There we go. That will no longer move. Let's go to the beginning. They pick it up. I'm going to cut all the keys right before it actually starts moving. So probably right to there. So I guess I should set up another little hacky thing that I like to do. It's kind of like alignment nodes that I set up, and I set these up for lots of props interactions when you're setting props down and picking props up, and especially important in a game when let's say you have a slot on an object like a countertop, and you know in order to interact with that countertop, the cup has to go on that node, and making sure the cup goes on that node. And it's useful for when you're dealing with props that may, in this case, where you're not really having to set it on a node in a game level, but you want it to kind of lock in there and be consistent across the board and feel good. So I'm going to go, I think I'll create this. Yeah, I'll create this right here. So I'm going to go into my asset browser. Oh, first I'm going to save. Remember to save, boys and girls. All right, so let me go into my elements. I'm going to grab a marker, drag that into the scene, align it to here, align, translation, rotation. It puts it kind of right there in space. Go to my properties, marker settings. I like to change the color on this. I'll do orange. Do a hard cross. Pump this up to like 50. No, 500. 1,000. Not 100. 1 3 zeros. There we go. All right, so now this is going to make a lot more sense here in just a sec. Let me go find that over here, which is right there. Pull this down here to where my rig crate is, which is right there. Okay, now I'm going to check my rotational values. X is 179.76. I'm going to say 180. You probably couldn't tell it, but it just slightly shifted, slightly rotated on the X. Y, which is probably okay. Z, 179.98. I'm going to fix that by saying 180. I don't know if you could see it, but it kind of like just slightly shifted. All right, so I'm going to set a key there. So I know, just so that it doesn't move. And I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to move my other one over here. This is going to be for where they set it down. Oh, there it goes. Let me get rid of that key. Line. Now I know how high it is. That's important. But I think I want to just do translation Z, which puts there. And I want to do align translation X, which puts it there. All right, so now I know it is the correct Y height up off the ground. Now I want to get the rotation because they set it kind of crooked, and I want to use that. I'll go grab that other marker I just created. All right, let's do rotation. So X. Line, translation, just rotation. Just rotation. All right. Now I'm going to look at my rotational values, and it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be slightly off, so I'm going to just do negative 180. Set a key. 180. All right, so I should be able to. Oh, wrong thing. All right, this is why I'm doing this. So when it sets it down, let me go back to my animation layer to where it like makes floor contact. And I go plot, and it's done. What I can do is I can go align, translation, rotation, and it fixes any sort of offset, rotational offset, and transitional offset so that it sits flat on the floor. I'm going to set that key, and then I'm going to copy that key and paste it over that key. There it goes. So now when they set it down, it kind of like flumps and goes and kind of like hits the floor flat. I'm going to go do the same thing to the front end. Right here. So you can see a little bit of a shift. Let me undo that so we can look at that again. So yeah, you see a little bit of a shift there. Hopefully you saw that. Set my key. Copy and paste. All right, so that's my offset. That's kind of like making sure it's lined up with the floor. It also gives me like a mark to go to set this thing down. I don't think I need this anymore. I'm gonna delete those. All right, let's get her hands working on that crate now. Man, she got some long legs with these big knee pads that are kind of cutting through things. All right, so this is my technique for messing around with this stuff. All right, make sure I'm on that initial key where she kind of like grabs a hold of it. I think I'm gonna have her pick it up underneath this this wood right here. All right, so on that key where I want to turn on her auxiliary effectors, I'm going to just, when I do these passes, it's just, I'm going to concentrate on just the left hand before I do the right hand. Maybe I'll bake everything down and then do the right hand, and or maybe I'll do them both and then bake it down. It's really going to depend on a lot of things. All right, so right here is where I want the auxiliary effector to actually turn on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. Key that. And I'm going to go back one frame and I'm going to key it off. So it's going to just kind of like snap on at this point in time. And then her hand will be now locked to that crate, and the crate is now driving her hand. It's not exactly where I want her hand, but that's where it's at. Also, look at her arm, her bicep. She's got kind of some weird flippity, fidgety things right here. What's really cool is because the hand is going to be driven by the prop, I can go in there and I can actually delete those ugly keys from the kind of slightly messy mocap and be able to smooth that out real fast with a couple of hand keyed keys. All right, let's get her hand into place. So let's go back here. I'm just going to put this right where I want it. Not concentrating on the fingers per se, but roughly in the right spot. So if you notice, there's a lot of shadow right there on the box. If I want, I've got a light node that I put in here. I can rotate that around. Maybe make this a little bit nicer to look at so you can see what I'm doing. That's part of the little light rig. Again, go check out my YouTube video on setting this kind of stuff up. I want her to come down, but I don't know if I want her to... Let me think. What's funny is every time I select the... Because this rig is associated with him, every time I select that, I'm actually selecting his control rig, so this actually switches over. There you go. This, I'm going to say I want it there. Now you're going to see a pop in her arm. So pop, pop, because I've moved the node into a different place. So here's how you can fix that real fast. So let me go back over to her. Select her hand. So she's going to come in. I'm going to set a 0 key earlier in the timeline, and when she comes down to actually pick it up, which is right here. No, wait, one more frame. Right there, I'm going to set another key. That's the offset key. Let's go look at the curves. So you can see it. The pop is no longer there because I fixed it with a quick offset. I'm gonna have to be mindful of when she lets go of it too, to re-zero out that arm. All right, so now what's happening is the prop is actually IK locking her arm a little bit. So this could be done. This could be fixed with like fixing the shoulder, maybe dropping her shoulder down just a little bit. You know, the thing's heavy. Maybe your arm's supposed to come down just a little bit. You can see that it's IK locking in the elbow, so as I lower her shoulder down, it will start to bend when it gets to a certain point. And you have to ask yourself, does this look natural? And if the answer is no, you need to think about a different strategy to fixing that. So there's a lot of different things you can do, like I could just grab this and I could move it up and play with it a little bit. I don't want her hands to feel like they're welded to this. I want it to be a little bit flexible. So another thing I can do, you know, I can grab her hips, her hips, not his hips. I can grab her hips. Set a couple keys here, maybe one right here, and then one right about here where it's becoming kind of egregious, and I can just lower her hips down ever so slightly to get her in line, or I could take the prop, the Y, and I could raise this up a little bit. I mean, there's all sorts of ways we can get rid of that IKing in the arm. Ever so slightly. Again, you don't want to, not big movements, small little fine movements, adjustments, tweaks. Arm is really bad, isn't it? I'm going to turn IK on her elbow and see if it fixes it. Actually fixes it a little bit. She still has a little bit of an IK issue right here. I think I'll fix that by just lifting the crate up just a little bit. Just enough. Right there. So I'm just kind of like playing around just a little bit just to... Elbow was really twisted in. That's not good. All I'm trying to do is get that arm to stop IK locking. All right, now where she lets go. Let's say right there. I don't think I like the IK on her elbow. I think there's a better way to fix that. Let's look at ghosting. Oh yeah, look at these pops in her arm. Yeah, that's where a lot of this bad stuff is coming from. See that? I'll try cutting just those little sections out. See what it looks like. It's better. I just cut the keys. It's cool. You can cut keys. There's a few people who are a little, for lack of a better term, anal retentive when it comes to mocap, and they're like, you can't cut keys. You have to. Exactly what the mocap does. I don't think that way. I'm gonna delete that. I don't need that anymore. That offset. Oh, it's going behind the thing. There we go. I should probably turn off that text box since nobody's watching right now and live to talk to me. You can't see what's going on up there. All right, so let's get back to her hand making contact. Seems pretty good to me. Let me go check this wrist. So you hold it probably like, let's see, probably hold it like this. I'm thinking about what the fingers. I'm not animating the fingers right now, but I'm trying to think about what the finger's going to do now. So I motion edit the hands correctly. I'm going to put a little bit of wiggle in those hands. Just enough so it doesn't feel like it's locked on there. Switch that music. I didn't like that last song that was playing. I need to get rid of that. Free YouTube music, so nice. Right. So I think I'm going to drop her hips. And then zero that out. There. See how that plays. All right, let's go fix that hand. It's that same issue. I just need to go to that offset key. Right there. See that? Pop, pop. All right. Go to the key where it's locked, set a key. Now when I scrub it, no more pop. Oh, what's going on over here? What is this? Huh, that's weird. Not worried about it. It's supposed to be like locked to her, and I haven't really gotten to that yet. Oh, you know what it is? It's because it's not parented to her hips, and I lowered her hips down, so she's actually kind of not doing what the original data did. That's fine. I'm gonna create a little attachment node right there to her hip, and that's where I'm gonna put the loot. Tell you, you know what's bugging me? That's bugging me right there. That grenade on him. I think I'm gonna try to fix that real fast. So I keep seeing it. I'm just like, golly. He's got these little pockets. You can't see it because he's got these guns, but he's got these little pockets here on the side to hold these little grenades. Just put it there. And it should be constrained, so I should be able to scrub this. Yeah, and it just stays there. I must not have it locked in the constraint. Must not be locked. Save that. I wonder if I should just go straight through. I think I'll go straight through to her drawing her pistol. Emmy's yeah, she doesn't use her, yeah, because it's her left hand, so take her all the way to drawing her pistol. Boom, shoots him right there. Boom. See, what's in control now? The joint or the rig for that pistol? Let's find out. Let's see. So, pistol joint control. So the pistol is in control. Okay, so let me think about this. Yeah, all right, so I should be able to go huck and joink, and let's scrub the animation. Yeah, that works. All right, so now we're gonna have to get that gun in the holster and get her to draw it. That holster is way up here. We actually had a bit more of a drop in our holster when we shot this. All right, so let's get this in the right place, and then I'll create a constraint for it and get that turned on and off so that the weapon is then working. Again, I'm going to work with the prop before I work with the hand connecting to the prop. So I think actually I have this right there. I think that's something. I think I am supposed to align it to that. Let's find out. Yeah, that'll work. It's not quite in the holster, but it's a cross draw holster. Like the model was designed so she like reaches across and then pulls out to shoot. So the pistol grip would actually be facing forward, but in reality, that's not very practical. So again, when I shot this, I had no idea what models I was going to be using. So. All right, so let's create a constraint for that if it's not already there. So belloc holster. Oh, I already do have a constraint. So if I say activate, it should be locked right there now, huh? Yeah. Nothing's happening because it's constrained. So I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to see where she's getting ready to draw it. So it's right here. So right there. So I want to find out where she's getting ready to draw it. All right. So I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna set a key. So this one I'm actually going to be keying the weights on and off. So if I select weight, I'll see the key pop up here. All right, so I'm going to here, and then I'm just going to go forward one frame. I'm going to turn the weight all the way down to 0, set a key, and you can see the gun's going to snap just like how her arm did. Like that, right? But we want to fix that. So let's go to the pistol control rig, which is pistol right there. And I'm going to go just like the hand. I'm going to set a offset key right here. I'm going to turn off this weights because he'll keep, if I set a key with that selected, it'll keep setting a key for the weights, and I don't want that to happen. So, all right, so I'm going to set a key right there. And I'm going to forward. To right about here. I'm going to 0 that out. I'm going to see if I can do a better job fitting this into her hand. All right, so she shoots him in the side. I gotta make sure that I'm kind of pointing in that direction. So here's a little trick we can do to make this line up correctly. Let's go to my asset browser. I'm going to grab a cube, drag it in here. I'm going to parent it to the pistol rig. Parent. I'm also going to line it up. And the reason why I use a cube is because it's a geo and it won't disappear if I hide my rigging. All right. This is kind of like my pointer stick. There we go. So this is where I can see if I'm actually shooting in the right place or not. So I'll lower that down just a little bit. Set a key there. You can see the timing's all off. because, you know, shoot, we really didn't shoot somebody on stage. So that will be fixed later. Once everything is edited, everything is clean, we'll go back and we'll do a timing pass to make sure everything is timed correctly. Looks like my pointer stick is not long enough. Here, let me fix that. Because she shoots him in the head. And she's going to holster it. It looks like it attaches right there, so that is where I'm going to align. Set a key. See, let's head over to that constraint. On and then flip back and then off. So I'm turning the weight on that constraint on and off. All right, so in this pass, I'm also going to make sure this pistol comes out of the holster and in the holster before I say I'm done with this little section. Let's hit save, be on the safe side. So I'm just going to make it feel like it's coming out of the holster now. And you know, it's totally okay to go like in this little section. I want key, 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 like one key right after another. You don't have to be like scared of saying I need to create my keys apart. And all right, well, let's get this thing holstered. It sure is difficult keeping track of something when there's a lot of transitional movement. You know, like you want your camera to follow what you're animating. That's cool. Yeah, it slides right down and then locks in place. All right, let's look at that pistol and just kind of start to finish of its little section here. See how it feels. I can always fine tune kind of where it's aiming later. All right, let's get that hand attached to the pistol. So I'm going to create another auxiliary effector. And I'm going to set up a constraint just like how I did on the crate. All right, pistol left hand attach. That will be the child. What? That was weird. Sometimes puts her hand right there. I kind of like that pose. I just need to get that on the pistol itself. Lock translation rotation so I can get this right in place. I'm not animating the fingers again. I'm thinking in my head, what am I going to have the fingers doing? And place the hand accordingly. Alright, so right here is pretty much where she has a hold of it, of the pistol grip. And that's where her hand needs to be like rock solid. But it's a little difficult to see her hand on the pistol right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go forward in the timeline to like right about here. I'm going to get her hand looking good on that pistol. And then I'll go back and I'll fix that. All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and take a little bit of a liberty here on the fingers. Hide these little end joints that I don't care about. There we go. Now they kind of look like hands. Because this is kind of a key pose, because it's on pistol, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do a little bit of adjusting to this. To kind of get this hand on here and looking correct. So the reason why I put an end joint on here, right there, which isn't in the Unreal skeleton, it's so I could have a nice IK handle to grab a hold of whenever I'm animating, and that joint will not export to Unreal. I mean, it will, but if your animation doesn't have it, it won't use it, and it's not really affecting anything else in the hierarchy, so it's totally cool that that's there. All right, so pro tip. If you don't want to look like an amateur, you need to learn how to pose fingers. Let's talk about finger posing. Fingers have a natural bend in them, and fingers will naturally point in like this to a spot somewhere in your palm, like so. And if you don't sculpt that into your pose, you're just hurting yourself. Your hands are gonna look like horrible, like garbage, like horrible garbage. And right now, they look like horrible garbage here because I have not angled them just yet. So usually the middle finger, you don't have to worry about, and by worry about I mean rotating. Oh, make sure I got the right joint selected. There we go. I'm talking about like that. Usually the middle finger's okay. It's the other fingers that rotate in towards that middle finger. So I'm just going to rotate that index finger in just a bit. Then I'm going to grab these two together. And I'm going to rotate those in. Then I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to rotate that in. And already that hand is looking a lot better than it did before. Anytime I know a little bit about gun safety, and you don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're intending to shoot. I mean, she's shooting, right? So her finger needs to be on the trigger, but I always think to myself, no, don't put your finger on the trigger. There we go. Yeah, sit back and see if I like this. Yeah. All right, so now I need to get this node. Where is it? This node right here, which should, yeah, it should be in the character extension. It is. Hit save in case. So I'm running Motion Builder 2018, and I've noticed sometimes Motion Builder will crash when trying to align things, translation and rotation. Especially if you haven't had a restart, if you haven't restarted in a while. All right, so that's where I want the hand to grip a hold of, and I don't want any of these other keys. Those got set because I was keying that prop, and that happens to be part of the prop, so it was getting those keys. All right. I think I'm okay with the hand and everything, so let's rewind time. She's going to grab that pistol. Fingers, 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 fingers. Let's zero it out right here. Zero those fingers right there. So I've got that auxiliary node in the right spot. So if I do this and I do this, should put her hand right in about the right spot. I'm going to see how this goes. So I'm going to key that on, set a key on her hand, then go back a frame, turn this off. There we go. And then she puts her thing up. Holsters her pistol. All right. Let's look at how she takes her hand off the pistol. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go right about here. Actually, I think I'm right here. I'm just going to key and then go forward and just going to key that off. And those are temporary keys. So I want to see right where I want her hand to come off. Okay, so she like sets the gun down and then kind of like drops her hand. So right about there, that's where her hand is going to come off the pistol. So I'm going to take those keys and I'm going to scrub them into place. Man, it's really tough to see. Let me zoom in on this. There we go. And zero out her arm. We add a little bit of finesse to this. Oh, so this is flying around because remember we're actually using the left weapon joint to control that. I should probably create a constraint for that, shouldn't I? I'm gonna have to have a couple because she's gonna have to hold it in her right hand as well, so she'll need a constraint for her right hand. All right, let's go get that hand pose, and which is right here. So I want that hand pose. So when I do the pose, I'm going to just get real close in on, like, unless I'm doing the full body, like I want everything in the body, I just, you know, I'll zoom out so I can see the full body. But if I just want a body part to copy and paste the pose, I'll zoom right in on whatever body part that is and just kind of find an angle that I think works for me. Right there, right here. So I'm gonna add that pose, and then the thumbnail makes sense. And if it was out here, because I wanted that pose and it looked like that, I probably later on wouldn't be able to tell what that pose was, even if I named it correctly. I really want a good idea of a good representation in my thumbnail of what that pose is. And let's all the way back over here where she puts her pistol up. And I'm in body part mode, so I should just be able to hit paste, and it just pastes. I don't know if you saw that. Fingers popped out. Here, let me scrub that. So, see what it looks like. Pop, paste. There we go. So I probably don't need any animation on this hand while it's gripping the pistol. So I'm gonna kill all that. So don't need any of this. And then I'll take these curves and just flatten them on both ends. There we go. And let's go back to here. And then I'll just hand key the finger actually pulling the trigger. And her hand's going to come off the gun. What happens if I zero it out? Yeah, it kind of looks like she's letting go of the gun. Thumb is passing through. I think that pistol actually, I think the slide is actually back on it. The pistol is rigged, but it's if I'm not mistaken, it's actually rigged inside of her actual main rig, which is weird. Still weird to me. Yeah, slide. Yeah, let's put that forward. It's kind of cool because it's real easy to just animate that slide blown back. Animation is not fast. Motion capture is way faster than hand keying, but still not fast. I'm going to take another look at that pistol. Make sure it's doing what I want it to do. Why is that slide keep popping back? Oh, that's why. Got some keys there on the base layer I didn't see. Probably because it's characterized. There we go. Yeah, she's cool. She's a badass. Felt like the pistol was a little too much back that way, so even though she's not aiming, she is aiming. So what I want to do is I kind of want to get some of this somewhat realistic. Which is where my pointer stick comes into play. So I'm kind of like looking where she's hitting him, which is right here. I'm looking at her eye, looking at the pistol, and I'm going to put it kind of into place. As if she was actually looking down the sights. And what that I think is going to do is it's going to help sell this pose and make it feel, you know, strong. I gotta fix that prop. Is that loot bag? Let's go see about fixing that. Nope. Yep. Money to rig. Loot. There we go. now the loot's where it should be. On the floor. Joink, yoink. You ain't getting that, sucker. Doesn't pay to be a bad guy. Ooh, that was bad. See, pistol. Right there. So when in doubt, zeroed out. Let's see what she was originally doing with that pistol. Oh, that needs to be fixed. Like that. See, this is why I usually don't put my weapon, like when I create a rig and I've got the main rig and then I have like the little hand attach points. I don't put them in the same character extension. I give them separate character extensions for this point, for this fact, because I wouldn't have to be going in and deleting the keys on the hand attach for that pistol whenever I make an update to the main rig. So we kind of want to make this pose a nice pose. That's kind of what you're doing when you're going through all this. You kind of want to start pushing the poses. I haven't really pushed the poses too much yet, but things like her reaching down to pick it up, like we can make this better than how it was shot. Typically, you want to catch this on set whenever you're shooting mocap, but sometimes you can't. So. Ooh, IK. I don't think it's IK. I mean, it's IK, but I think it's because there's bad data in that arm. So let me go check that arm out on the base layer. Yeah, look at that. Right there. See that? Bad data. Right there. Let me delete that. There you go. Now it looks better. No more fighting. No more fighting the mocap. So mental note, sometimes you're going to be asked to make mocap do things that it wasn't intended to do. In other words, you shot a walk animation and they decide they want it to be a jog. You can't really turn a walk into a jog and make it look pretty. That's when you need to reshoot the motion. So you want to work with the motion capture. The second you start fighting the motion capture, it's time to stop what you're doing, rethink what you're doing, and if necessary, talk about reshooting the motion, if possible. If you have your own mocap stage, then it's possible, usually. I think we're getting there. She's got little hitches here in her motion. She goes to pick up the stuff. There it is. I see it. Whenever you deal with rotation, like right now I want to get rid of this little hitch in the spine. Right there. Typically, if you're going to muck around with rotation on the spine, you also want to do it with the hips. And vice versa. If you're mucking around with rotation on the hips, you want to also, in unison, muck around with the spine. Because your torso and your hips, that your core, they kind of work, everything works together. And if you start messing with one and not the other, they kind of get out of sync and gets kind of wonky. I'm just going to delete a few keys. Much better. Still got a little bit hitch of in the arm. There we go. Yeah, that whole hitch is gone. I mean, there was like a whole hitch in the chest and the spine and both arms, and there's some ugly stuff going on there that I'm glad we figured out what it was and got rid of it. And I can see by the little red button up there, it's time to save again. Did I mention this is probably a 12 to 16 hour animation at least? A 10 to 16, 12 to 16 hour animation, and this is going to be a few nights because I can only work on this a few hours each night. So I don't know if I'll be able to get to this again tomorrow or the next day or next week. Definitely be able to get to this next week. Just it's like 11:30. It's probably about time for me to go to bed. Man, yeah, I sure did. I did get a lot done. I'm not quite done with this pass. I mean, there's a lot still needs to happen. This is since I started mucking around with the fingers with the gun to kind of get things to work there, because I really needed that contact point. I should probably go in this pass and also do the fingers on the crate, and I think that I might do that, and then I might call it a night. So, but that I need to start way back at the beginning. All right, this will be a rough finger pass. Rough. I try not to just rough things in if I can help it. I'm just going to go into the very first frame. I'm just going to try to get a decent pose on these fingers. So when you're posing fingers, I like to call it sculpting. When you're sculpting your pose, trying to make it look nice, what you have to realize fingers group together. And not only do they kind of point in, which these fingers are not pointing into the palm, I don't think. Let me check. Here's the way you can check. And they kind of pointed to the middle. It could be a little bit better. It should be more like this. That's more of a natural angle. And let me unroll them. All right, so grouping of fingers. So typically, these three fingers group together like that. You can see it in a lot of comic books and how artists draw hands, especially like Spider-Man and some of these other characters. Just kind of like the way they. So those three fingers group together. Now these three fingers that group together, these two fingers actually group together as well, and it has to do with the way tendons in your forearms control your fingers, and how certain tendons control both these fingers right here, and how these three work together. So just be cognizant of that. I'm just gonna try to get a good pose here at the very beginning. I'm not worrying about the arm or the body or anything right now. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do a pose pass where I just kind of like make sure all the poses are nice and solid. All right, so I'm looking for like key moments in this in her movements. I know this is a very important spot right here because that's where she actually grips onto it. So I guess I'll go ahead and I'll set a key up here. So I was thinking about how the hand needs to fit on here, but guess I didn't think enough about it. I'm gonna have that hand slide back just a little bit, like it's sliding into place. So I'm trying to think, would my thumb be on top of the crate like this, or it be on the side of the crate, like I'm just kind of using friction in my hands to pick it up and lift it? I don't know, what do you think? If it was your animation, what would you do to make this look cool? It's getting there. It's getting close. She's got a weird hand pose right there, so I gotta fix that. Fingers are really splayed out. Kind of bent a little bit unnaturally. Remember the grouping of fingers and how fingers group. So, a pro tip, like I don't know if you're seeing me move these fingers around. If I just left click and drag a finger around it just it moves like so. But if you right click and drag something around, you can see you can get much smaller, more incremental type of a movement out of it. That's a pro tip. All right, hands a little bit better. So she kind of curls her fingers in right here. It's not so bad. Kind of like the fingers being a little not quite. Yeah, that'll work. So the actress who played this part, she actually is a bodybuilder. I mean, she's a weightlifter, weight trainer. She works on weightlifting and that kind of stuff. So she has this very interesting posture to her, and the way she moves and her kinematics. And I've noticed how people move. A lot of times, what they do defines how they move. So. This actress, because she does a lot of strength training, she's very stiff. She has this very upright, almost stiff posture. And when I've worked with actresses who are gymnasts and very athletic in that sort of way, they have a different type of way that they stand and move around and everything. So just interesting. So she's going to reach down, she's going to hit that box right there. All right, so again, it's totally cool to put a ton of keys in here to get the everything to work how you want it to. So I like right there, but I don't like right here. I'm going to rotate those fingers out like that because she's made contact with the side a little bit. let me tighten up to this little section of animation right here. Zoom in on that. So this is what I'm going to mean by like putting in a bunch of keys, because I want that kind of tactile feel. Fingers can take a long time, depending on the complexity of the action and kind of what's happening, and are the fingers coming in contact with anything. I think our arm's a little jittery. I gotta go fix that. I think that's throwing me off on the hands, and yeah, look at that. So bump. Oh, back in there. Yeah, right there. I don't like that. So I think I'm gonna get rid of that. Maybe one more key. I gotta fix those fingers now. So that was the problem. The problem was there was a little bit of ugly noise. So let's see what I need to do to fix those fingers. Right there. Oh yeah, it looks a lot better. Yeah, it doesn't look so like weird, hitchy, fidgety, not like it did before. All right, so as the fingers slide across, I want to have a little bit of a drag. So I want them to get into place. So I think I'm going to move all of them like this. Then as the hand slides back, kind of pull just ever so slightly. There we go. That's a lot better. All right, now let's fix those hands so that they don't look ugly as she's, or that, at least that hand, those fingers, so she doesn't look ugly as she's carrying it across the floor. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my base animation layer, select all my fingers, rotation, and I'm just going to, from here, I'm just going to delete until she takes her hand off the crate. Right here. There it goes. Yeah, that'll work. And fix those curves. There we go. There we go. Curves are now fixed. All right, let's take a snapshot of that hand. So I want that pose right there. That pose. And I'm going to paste it over here. I got to fix that hand. Oh no, what'd I do? Let me fix my layout. There we go. And time to save. Alright, so I'm going to grab that key right there. So this is the attach node for that crate where her hand's attached to. I'm going to copy that and then go to where she lets go of it. Paste it right there. There we go. Alright, now to make her let go of the crate. So we got her grabbing the crate. Time to make her let go of the crate. So I don't want her hand to feel like it's too tacked on there. So right here. All right. Let's see, she puts her hand on her hip. I forgot all about that. Yeah, so those of you just kind of tuning in, let's play the scenario out so you know, see where we're at. This is a heist. This is going to be a double cross where these two criminals are finishing a job. The girl paid the guy to do the job. He's like a hired thug minion. And so they're finishing the loot. And she's like, all right, let's move this over here. And she sets that down. He's like, yeah, good working with you. Yeah, it's good working with you. Here's your pay. Thanks. Appreciate it. She grabs, shoots him. Bam. Again. She has, haha, you can't trust me. Grabs that. One last shot. Bam. And he's down. And she walks off. Double cross. The heist. Alright. And the goal is to have this in an Unreal cinematic in the Unreal Engine. So if you haven't caught part 1, go catch up on part 1 where I talk about assets and how to extract them from Unreal. These are from free to download, these two characters on the Unreal Marketplace, and you can just follow along a little bit and these tutorials and do something similar. I think I almost have that left hand down. I just have that hip to do. I keep saying one more thing, and it's like midnight. I'm like, one more thing. Like I said, this is gonna be like a 3-hour. It's not 3 hour. I'm sorry. It's gonna be like a probably a good 12 to 16 hours of motion editing to just get this nice and rock solid. I did a lot of the heavy lifting this episode, getting a lot of the setup taken care of, constraints, and getting just the motion capture retargeted to the two characters and what have you. And if you're wondering what this stick is pointing out of the gun, this is a kind of a pointer stick, so when she aims her gun at him, I can see exactly kind of where that gun is aiming and what she's going to hit, because the first hit needs to land in his side, second one the shoulder, and then she finishes him off right there. So, should I finish that last hand, or should I, that last little bit where she puts her hand on her hip, and call it a night, or should I call it a night now? Think about that. I'll have her put her hand on her hip. I think if I can get through this left arm, I can call it a pass. This pass is done. The left arm is done. Her left arm is, well, not done, but like at a good stopping point anyway. Let's see what she's doing here. She's putting her hand on her hip. They must have been hauling a lot of loot. See if I can zero out that arm, which I don't think I can. It's already zeroed. Yeah, it is. Just got to put this in the right place. Put it right here. So what I like to do is I'll come in here and I will do a bunch of motion editing right here, and then I'll go and hit a 0 key, zero it out back to the base layer, kind of get that arm back to where I think it should be. Our arm is a little flippy here, isn't it? See what it looks like playing it real time. It's a little spastic. Not too bad, I guess. Probably something I can tone down later. Yeah, fix that hand, those fingers. All right, so where are we at? So what I'm looking for on that hand is I'm looking for if it feels floaty. If it feels floaty, I add another auxiliary effector, and constrain it or parent it to her hip, and lock the hand down just in that little section. But I think it's okay. I think if I need to lock it down, I can do it in a later pass. But I do think it's in a little bit better spot now. So let's go work on those fingers real fast. I feel there's something going on the base layer for that arm right there. A little bit of a hitch, it feels like. I can't quite put my finger on it. Right. I think it's this direction change. I bet if I just kill a couple of those keys, There we go, that's better. Not such a quick direction change. I think I'm going to go grab her hand pose at the very beginning of the animation, this one right here. Let me grab that hand pose. Pose controls. See if I paste it right there, see how it looks. It's a better pose overall. Now let's get that key. The key pose is right here. Yeah, it looks a little bit better, I think. Let's copy that pose. I twisted those fingers all over the place. Actually need to twist this way. Sculpting the hand, sculpting the hand. Ooh, that thumb's looking a little rough there. You might. Thumbs are such tricky parts of the body to deal with. They're tricky to rig, they're tricky to animate, and get to look right without a lot of extra bells and whistles and doodads and stuff like that. It's not, this isn't pretty, but it has to do with weighting and the fact that there's like limited joints and stuff. So alright, so I got my two key poses right here. This pose, and then this pose where she's getting ready to take her hand off. And I'm just going to do in between to kind of like make sure there's nothing weird going on. So I have to make the decision, do I animate the fingers or do I animate the hand? So you kind of have to use your best judgment. Look at that, look at that hand. Hand's doing something there. I think that is in the base animation. Oh wait, maybe it's that. It was that. Not in the base animation. That's the difference between an IK effector and a FK effector, or FK part of the node. FK part of the node. I'm getting tired. I'm not saying my words correctly. Takes her hand off. I'm going to zero that out. That's not too bad. When she drops her hand, I think I'm going to paste that initial pose back on there. Which is this one right here. By initial, I mean the pose I created for the start of the animation. And then here I'm going to paste that again. She's getting ready to draw that pistol, so I got to go into that. Alright, so I need to fix this pose. So what's the pistol pose? Let's see. That's the pistol pose. But I don't want her to be quite in the pistol pose just yet. I just wanted to kind of get the fingers in the right general vicinity. So if you wanted to say, I like the original data on the thumb, but you don't want to hit 0 down here, which is what I've been doing, you can actually do it in the F-curve editor to individual joints or nodes in your control rig. So I'm going to select the thumb, I'm going to select those keys. I mean, not here, but here, I'm going to click 0, and it's going to 0 out just on that thumb because that's all I have selected over in the F-curve editor. And get that thumb back where a little bit more where I wanted it. I can do a little bit of fine tuning after that to kind of get it all the way there. There we go. I think that left hand is just about done for this iteration. Let's hit save so I don't lose anything. Oh, excuse me. Lose anything important. So there's a little bit of roughness, a little bit of noise to her animation, to that arm. I know I've gone in and I've cut out a bunch of ugly pops and hitches and just things that trickled in from the mocap data being a bit rougher than we would like. But a lot of this other noise, I think I'm going to get rid of whenever I get to that a more final polish pass on this. And what I'm doing is I'm just smoothing over the overall animation for the whole skeleton. Let's go full screen. Let's look at this. I think I'll hide this for now. Oh, here's something fun we can do. Where is that pistol? Here it is. So if you go over to, you have groups and you have sets. If you go over to sets, and I created a set with that selected, so it should now be in a set. So if I hide it, I should be able to turn it on and off, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where she shoots him, and I'm just going to do this. Couple frames off. And then she shoots him again here, so. I don't know if the timing's great, but so creating a set, and putting something in it is a good way to be able to animate visibility on and off. It's just it's just on or off. You can't like fade in or fade out. Pew pew. So things I could do to make this a little bit nicer. I could go in here and add a little more noise to her left hand, that attached left hand attach node in the grate, so that there's a little more wiggle as she's carrying it. Looks like she's got a little bit of noise on her arm still. That's troublesome, but it's something I can fix later. And I think with that, I'm going to call this a night. I guess what I could do is I can plot this down. Yeah, I'm going through my head right now thinking, did I miss anything? There's a lot of constraints going on here. A lot going on with her. I have to think about this. You have to think about this when there's a lot of stuff going on, because you could break your animation by plotting down and then moving on. But I don't think there is, because I don't see her arm doing anything weird. All right, so plot skeleton. I saved it, so I've got to back up somewhere. So plot save to skeleton, or plot to skeleton. Sweet. And plot to control rig. All right, now with him, because I actually animated this node, which is part of his character extension, I'm going to go ahead and plot him down as well. Now if I go check those keys on that, on the base animation layer, yeah, you can see that there's, you can see that it's actually active. It got baked down. All right, that pass is done. It's done. It's baked down. It's plotted, and yeah. All right, so I guess that's it for me for tonight. Tune in next time. I don't know when that's going to be because I'm a busy individual. For part 3, which is a continuation of this motion editing again. This is less like a tutorial. This is more like a project that I'm working on, and you're just kind of along for the ride. And I wish I had an achievement for people who actually sit through this whole long, boring motion editing thing. I need to do that. I need some sort of achievements for people. But yeah, tune in next time, and we'll have a lot more. There'll be a lot more going on. Get her other arm working, get him working with that box, and then I think the final step would probably be making their interactions happen before going to the timing and getting everything to time correctly. All right. So if I do this, Thank you. And again, if you haven't followed or subscribed, please follow or subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. And all feedback, I try to look at it all. So yeah, if you have any comments or whatever, just go ahead and shoot me a message. Later.